Good evening, YouTube. What the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here. Alright, I know you've been bombarded with dwarf stuff, but it's a nice follow-up to the conversations I've been having. Chief Dreaming Owl sent me some replays where he tried to use a very different Dawi army, first against Norsca, and then against the Skaven. I will show you the results of both. He's got 2 gyrocopters, 2 with brimstone guns, 2 giant slayers flanking a standard dwarf lord. And then on either flank, he's got some miners with blasting charges, rangers, and a ranger with great weapons. And he's going to come up, and he's also got the Ekrund miners, and this is Uthar's raiders. So on this flank with Norsca here, he's going to come up against a nasty, nasty piece of work here, which is Soul Crusher, the War Mammoth. Oh man, yeah, that guy crushes your soul for sure when you're a die. That is 11,000 hit points of soul crushing, Dawi stomping, dwarf jelly making fun. Unless you're the dwarf, then it's not fun. So we got a couple of marauders with great weapons in the middle, marauders with great weapons along the flank, marauder champions with great weapons in the middle, Wulfric on a chariot, Death Sorcerer on a chariot, and then we've got some ice wolves. This army is actually kind of a nightmare for dwarves, and when I say kind of, I mean a definite nightmare for dwarves. It's definitely everything infantry-wise is armor-piercing, and everything monster and lord-wise is anti-infantry. This is a nightmare scenario for dwarves. Gyrocopters with brimstone should be quite good versus the Soul Crusher, but he has so many hit points. That mammoth is not going to be stopping. He got the marked by Uthar, and even with marked by Uthar, I mean, 4,000 hit points later, it just doesn't matter. I mean, like any other monster would probably cough it up and die here, but not Soul Crusher. He crushes your soul. So the dwarves get quickly overwhelmed on this flank. Between Soul Crusher and then the forward deploy Marauder Horseman, we're going to get a nice play here by the Norscan, and he's going to disrupt everything going on this flank. The gyrocopters are firing desperately. They need to be looking for infantry blobs, and there's a huge one out here. I would almost take those steam guns and just come over here and start working on this infantry blob. The chariots are going to run amok. The dwarves have nothing to stop them. Nothing. You could dive bomb with a gyrocopter to try and stop it, but it wouldn't do that much. Over here, the reinforcement dwarves are trying to get back from the one flank, while their other flank is just being savaged. Soul Crushers already stomped 20 Dawi into a fine paste. We actually did get a dive bomb here with these gyrocopters. I'm not sure if that was a misclick or on purpose. Not sure why you would ever come out of the sky against Norsca. It definitely would want to stay in the sky. So Soul Crusher again took tremendous damage, but he can take tremendous damage. That's the nature of being a Soul Crusher. These Ice Wolves are going to get knocked out here by the dwarf flank that's coming back in, and they're going to try and make a fight out of this. They do have rangers with great weapons, which could potentially deal with chariots, but getting the chariot to sit still is just going to have to mean a mistake on his opponent's part in order for that to become possible. Ulthar's raiders, miners with blasting charges, a few units coming back from routing. Soul Crusher continues to finish off what's left of the Dawi on the ground. And then the Dwarf Lord is in a desperate fight over here, and here comes Wulfric. He is going to take a horrible volley here. Does a lot of damage, but it's not enough to kill him. His chariot is heavily armored, it's shielded. Again, it's going to be difficult for the dwarves to stop him in any kind of hurry, unless you just had massed Thunderer fire. And even that's going to be hard because he moves around pretty quickly. See how he just kind of dodges all the axes. It is very difficult to stop heavy chariots with the dwarves. Very difficult. And then the fact that Norsca can do stuff like this, these wolves get routed, and they've just come right back. These ones have come back. They're going to get reactivated. They're going to pin down the rangers. And then Wulfric will just continuing running amok here. He's already got 43 kills. And his killing spree isn't going to end anytime soon. The gyrocopters chasing Soul Crusher, but they've still got to chip away 3,000 hit points. These gyrocopters end up getting used on the Marauder Horseman, which I guess in some ways kind of makes sense. But there's been a blob of infantry over here that would have been a beautiful target, both for their bombs and their steam guns. And Chief Dreaming Owl, I think, although he's fought bravely here, I think it's a bit of a mistake. The Fate of Buna is just... I mean, you got Soul Crusher and you get Fate of Buna. If you had a soul, it's definitely crushed, and then it's ripped out of you magically. What a way to go. Yeah, Norsca is not going to be an easy faction to pick apart with this type of build. Skin wolves, plenty of armor-piercing infantry. Gyrocopters, I do think, can give Norsca some fits, but they're going to need time to do it. Meaning that you're going to need to deploy your army well away from what Norsca's doing, and give your gyrocopters some time to cause the damage and the disruption that you need, because otherwise Norsca definitely has the tools in its arsenal to make Dawi life a fat sack of crap. Boy, Soul Crusher has just been punished from the beginning. It just doesn't matter. He just keeps going. He's the Energizer Mammoth here, folks. And a mammoth on the loose is definitely a Dawi nightmare. Youch. So the gyrocopters do come in to get their bombs, and now the steam guns are going right down on the top of the infantry. And just look how quickly the steam guns wreck up this infantry. This is where they needed to be. This blob on the Dwarf Lord was tailor-made for these steam guns. I mean, again, just look how quickly they're racking up the damage. It is massive damage that they can deal here. But they weren't here soon enough to deal enough damage. They were busy with the Marauder Horsemen. So the dwarves are going to start losing all their leadership, and despite the gyrocopters being alive and potentially being able to cause a decent bit of damage, there's not enough ammo left to deal with everything anyway, even if they could have held their leadership together. I think that in this case, his army could potentially have beat what Chaos brought here, potentially, or Norsca. But I think the key is that he would have had to actually try and deploy back, knowing that Norsca can forward deploy so much. Pull back. Norsca doesn't have a lot of great options at bringing down gyrocopters, especially if you have 4 of them. Make Norsca cross the map, revealing everything they have, while you're picking away at their mammoth. You're hitting their infantry. That's, I think, the better way to have run this. It was kind of cool how he forward deployed there, but Norsca was ready, and they answered. Let's take a quick look at that replay, or the results of that replay again. These gyrocopters at the end started to rack up some kills, and remember, it doesn't actually show what the bombs did. And you know, he killed quite a few of the Norskins, but not enough to pull it off. Soul Crusher crushed their souls, and Wulfric was actually doing a lot of damage as well. Let's jump into his other replay. This time he's going to try it versus the Skaven. And remember how I taught you that the gyrocopter with the steam gun is very good versus artillery. When I saw the makeup of the Skaven army here, I was like, oh, please, please, please. Let's see the steam gun go to work on that artillery. Now, this is a... And I don't mean this to be mean. I'm not trying to be mean to Shroomy here, but this is the kind of Skaven build that is definitely that pompous, you're a dwarf, you don't have any mobility, and I'm going to make you pay for it kind of build, where he brings 4 Plague Claw catapults, thinking, the dwarves will never be able to touch it. And this is what I love the gyrocopter pick for, because you can punish these guys quite badly. Now, the Skaven have tools for dealing with gyrocopters if they bring them, but again, they usually wouldn't bring those tools because they're not going to be super effective against Dawi infantry, and they're expecting a more traditional Dawi build where they can launch all of their artillery versus the Dawi artillery. Look at the forward deploy here, all the way up on a Skaven flank. It's basically the exact same build for the dwarves in this case. I think it is the exact same build. The Skaven, 4 Plague Claws, a bunch of Clan Rats, a Plague Priest with his Furnace, and then we've got Skrolk, and there's some Rat Ogres. There's 1 Storm Vermin with Sword and Shield, 1 Storm Vermin with Halberds mixed into here as well. So, mostly trash Skaven infantry, and there is a lot of Skaven artillery where they're hoping to get the work done. So the dwarves are going to spring a very explosive little trap. Now, the Plague Furnace here ought to be very vulnerable to the Brimstone guns. It will be an excellent target for them, and they should do considerable damage to good effect there. These Ulthar's Raiders need to pull back a little bit, but it looks like they're moving forward intent to get a hold of that Plague Furnace. These Clan Rats, meanwhile, just get absolutely chicken fried in that fight. And you can see here that the Plague Furnace coming under heavy fire. Now, these gyrocopters do get in and start taking shots. Again, I'm going to point something out here real quick. This is a great play, but remember, these gyrocopters with steam guns don't need to shoot from the flank. This is a miss micro. Get them around here, park them right behind the artillery, and let them fire straight down. And these units are blobbed up where that explosive damage would start taking these out. One or two volleys per gun, they would be gone. But you're going to see that firing in from the flank like this, the artillery piece will actually sometimes protect the Skaven unit. See how the artillery piece actually took the hit and only one went through there? So something to be aware of. If you're using that gyro bomber, shooting from the flank where you're hitting the unit long ways will be more effective, but the steam gun needs to just fire straight down. Anyway, you can see how quickly the plague furnace is taking damage. And the Dawe infantry here is actually going to stand up for a decent while against the Skaven. These plague monks. Yes, summon plague monk. And there is just a knockdown, drag-out slog of a fight going in the center, and the gyrocopters do start doing some damage here. And the copters, again, need to be behind these units for max effect, behind them. He still stays on the flank here, and he's accidentally misclicked an order on that fleeing clan rat as well. So, but you can see that the gyrocopters did bring down a key target here. That plague priest was a great target to take out. Over here, though, for the Dawe with Skrolk, mixed into all these storm vermin, their flank is falling apart quickly. Their lord's pretty healthy, though, which is good, but a lot of their units are falling apart because they're pretty cheap units to begin with. Now, the steam guns starting to get into a position where they can really do the damage, and let's see what they're able to do. One of the plague claws is out of position. There you go. Now your steam guns, you're going to see them start, even when they miss, they'll start landing decent hits. Here you go. He's going to come on in and drop his bombs. This is a pretty blobbed up unit, but again, just park your copters right behind this. He dropped his bombs both at once. Again, I would save those. And again, park that gun right behind the... Alright, now he's right on top of them. Look how much more quickly the job gets done here when he's parked on top of these units. So you already got plague claws wavering. The job starts to get done much more quickly. So now he's on it. He's got it. So those gyrocopters are going to pay huge dividends here, taking out 4 artillery pieces. The Dwarf Lord is going to just be a tank like Dwarf Lords are. Skrolk's rolling around in here. I'm kind of surprised that the Dwarf Lord is alive as he is, to be honest. Because Skrolk is pretty good wrecking units like this. He's just completely surrounded by rats. But again, you've got steam guns, and this blob should just be ripe for steam guns once they finish off that artillery. In fact, I would go ahead and send 1 steam gun this way. Here comes Skrolk. He's going to jump into the fight, trying to take out this Dwarf Lord. Steam guns have chased out the artillery. Let's see if they go take advantage of this blob, because like I said, this is just kill central for steam guns. Or a gyro bomber, where you get it going back and forth like this, dropping bombs. This is exactly the kind of scenario you want for those. His brimstone guns were out chasing a unit. They're going to come on back. They were chasing something cheap, so there's definitely some micro mistakes here by Dreaming Owl. That's pretty common for most of us. Storm vermin's getting hit. Plague claw catapults firing again, but it's going to get dropped pretty quick. The Dwarf Lord is in desperate need of some help over here. That infantry blob is still just screaming for gyrocopters to come in and bomb it, and for the steam guns to hit him from above. Let's see what happens. These brimstone guns moving back towards the fight. Looks like they're going to target the rat ogres. Definitely an appropriate choice for him. Skrolk would be a good choice too. Yeah, it looks like the bombers, they're going to come in and drop their bombs. Let's get a view of this. See if his bombs hit target. A little bit of a miss. Little bit of a miss. And now that blob is broken up a little. The steam guns were chasing off some units back here. They're still firing at the Plague Claw catapult, so wasting some ammo that they really need over here on this infantry. But let's see if he can pull it back together. His units are regrouping. He's starting to put together a comeback effort here. The gyrocopters are firing their last brimstone ammo, and then the steam guns have now moved up. Take your time, though. That's what I would say with these. Take your time. Don't just click the attack order. Get into range. Rain down the death from above, so that when there's an infantry blob, and he's getting pretty lucky right here. All those shots are landing in the infantry, but don't risk it. Get right on top of your target. Drop the shots right down on top of them. That way nothing misses. You get all that explosion damage. Because the steam guns are actually somewhat inaccurate. But you can see they're dishing out some damage now. Dishing out some pretty serious damage, and they're on the edge of their range. pretty certain these things would do a lot better if they get in range, but the way their shops keep missing, they actually just keep hitting. So it's working out good for him at this point. So the Skaven infantry starting to eat it. Skrulk is actually in a bit of trouble because the brimstone guns, remember, we found out they're pretty good lord snipers. And that's exactly what happened here. If you're trying to snipe a lord on foot, the brimstone guns are actually a pretty darn good option. And Skrulk gets taken out. And if he hadn't had this option to take out Skrulk, I don't know that he could have turned this one around. But any infantry that's left now is going to die at the hands of the steam guns, and then also it'll get charged by the gyrocopters in melee. Skrulk's going to get run down by some gyrocopters here too. He rerouted. They can escort him off the battlefield. The Dwarf Lord came back even though he was being chased by rat ogres. That's kind of surprising. These storm vermin taking the last few steam gun shots. Look at that, 90 kills on that gyrocopter. That's a pretty good bunch of kills. The brimstone guns won't get a lot of kills, but they definitely did some good damage. 89 kills on this gyrocopter, 90 on the other. He's going to land some more hits here on storm vermin. It's definitely going to be an effective unit. This one has well over a chevron on that gyrocopter. It's going to die to these storm vermin. But it got some work done. Got some work done. Yep, Skrulk's getting taken out, being chased by the gyrocopters. Not a whole lot left at this point. The Dwarf Lord's coming back. Let's just see what else we get into here. The Storm Vermin are really the only remaining unit. Dwarf Lord's going to come out of a Plague Claw catapult, came back from routing, but it's going to get hunted down by this gyrocopter. Let's see what happens here. The Storm Vermin can't hold together its leadership, and the Dwarf Lord is doing some pretty tremendous damage to them. Skaven infantry is pretty sorry. It's really only useful in high numbers, which obviously is how Skaven infantry comes. But yeah, it's pretty sorry infantry overall. Those ones got chicken fried once again. And the leadership can't hold for the Skaven. This old Skrulky off the battlefield, they can't hold it together. So this was going to turn out to be a victory. So Chief Dreaming Owl definitely made some mistakes ordering around his units. I do every time in battle as well, so I'm not saying that from the standpoint of perfection, but hopefully you all can see it, learn from it. He used this army once against Norsca, it didn't work. He tried it again versus Skaven, and it worked. There's going to be times where it works, where it doesn't work. That's a pretty interesting composition he put together. I think there's other ways you could do this too, right? I think you combine this force here with a small elite infantry force with artillery. Put yourself in a good position on a nice wide open map way back where you can fire at the enemy all the way across the map while you're harassing them with the steam guns. Just be aware of what faction you're making that pick against. It's going to work better against factions that can't dominate the sky. If they can dominate the sky, it's going to get a lot more interesting. So like if you're expecting a dragon, you may want to forego one of the steam guns and pick 3 brimstone guns to go harass a dragon. So you just got to be a little bit careful with that. It can be done. But anyway, thanks for Chief Dreaming Owl sending this in, showing us someone trying to go use these armies. Definitely interesting to see. Hopefully you all go have some fun with this. I do hope you enjoyed the battles. If you did, make sure and drop a like up there. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button, and then YouTube has that idiotic bell that you have to click in order to get notifications. So click the stupid bell if you want to be notified even though you already subscribed. I know, it makes a lot of sense, but that's YouTube for you. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out. I will see you all soon.